G'day. We're down here at Perry Point, and this is where they all come to look for whales. The whales come through here in winter heading north. They come, they migrate every year in the winter, go north to have their babies and get into warmer water and do a bit of feeding up there, and then by September, October, they all turn around and come back and go south. And so we're just here today on the off chance we might see one and get a picture of it. In the peak season, the scientists sit up on the mountain here and count them, and they say hundreds go through, 200 or 300 every day, just travelling south or travelling north. Right now they're travelling north. But what better place to tell you about the book of Jonah? Jonah was a prophet born near Nazareth about 800 years before Jesus. In 770 BC, he was the first prophet to take a message to Nineveh, the capital city in Assyria, known as the Bloody City because they were cruel people who impaled thousands of their citizens and ruled by terror. No wonder Jonah didn't want to go there. And he didn't want to save them either, because maybe he knew that later they would come back and attack Israel. So reading from the book of Jonah, verse 1. The word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Amittai. Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness has come up before me. But Jonah ran away from the Lord and headed for Tarshish. He went down to Joppa, where he found a ship bound for that port. After paying the fare, he went aboard and sailed for Tarshish to flee from the Lord. Have you ever tried to run away from the Lord? He won't let you. He's got the hounds of heaven chasing you. Then the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. All the sailors were afraid, and each cried out to his own God. And they threw the cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. But Jonah had gone below deck, where he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. The captain went to him and said, "How can you sleep? Get up and call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us so that we will not perish." Then the sailors said to each other, "Come, let us cast lots to find out who is responsible for this calamity." They cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. Who else do we know who fell asleep in a boat in a storm? And you know the story. He offers to be thrown overboard, or he offers his life for the ship and the crew, and eventually they do just that, and the storm is calmed as soon as they throw him into the sea. And Jonah sinks to the bottom of the sea. From inside the fish, Jonah prayed to the Lord. He said this, "In my distress I called to the Lord, and he answered me. From deep in the realm of the dead I called for help, and you listened to my cry. You hurled me into the depths, into the very heart of the seas, and the currents swirled about me. All your waves and breakers swept over me. I said, I have been banished from your sight. Yet I will look again toward your holy temple. The engulfing waters threatened me. The deep surrounded me. Seaweed was wrapped around my head. To the roots of the mountains I sank down. The earth beneath barred me forever. But you, Lord my God, brought my life up from the pit. When my life was ebbing away, I remembered you, Lord, and my prayer rose to you, to your holy temple. Those who cling to worthless idols turn away from God's love for them, but I, with shouts of grateful praise, will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed I will make good. I will say salvation comes from the Lord. And the Lord commanded the fish, and it vomited Jonah onto dry ground. You know, the God of second chances made a way for Jonah to be born again, resurrected to a new life where he would be obedient and do what God asked in the first place. No doubt word spread about with a huge sea creature vomiting this man onto the beach. And more people would have listened to him than if he'd just stepped off a camel and started preaching. Within days, the people of Nineveh repented, and the Lord saves them from total destruction. But Jonah is not a happy chappy. In chapter 4, verse 1, "But to Jonah this seemed very wrong, and he became angry. He prayed to the Lord, 'Isn't this what I said, Lord, when I was still at home? That is what I tried to forestall by fleeing to Tarshish. I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and abounding in love, a God who relents from sending calamity. Now, Lord, take away my life, for it is better for me to die than to live.' But the Lord replied, 'Is it right for you to be angry?' But in 2 Kings 14 verse 25 it says this, the Lord had asked Jonah to take a blessing to King Jeroboam, a wicked king, and then Jonah was unhappy about that. Jonah was jealous. He wanted God to punish the wicked and only bless the people of Israel. We would probably be like Jonah if we were asked to take a message to ISIS in Iraq or Syria today. We too might jump on a ship and go to Tarshish. But God is merciful and desires that none should perish and all be saved. And the book ends with this verse 11, and should I not have concern for the great city of Nineveh, in which there are more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from their left, and also many animals." So there, Jesus told the Pharisees when he was walking the earth, he said the only sign that he would offer them was the sign of Jonah. There are many parallels between Jesus and Jonah. Both offered their lives for others. Both spent 3 days in the depths. Both were resurrected to a new life. Some great messages in the book of Jonah. Well worth reading it all and letting it soak in. Just see what the Lord is saying to you as you read it. And if you want to come with us on the next book, we're looking at the prophet Micah. Just click on the button on the screen and join us for the next book. Meanwhile, we'll go back to having a little look to see if there's some whales passing by today. And we'll see if we can see some. You have a great day. See you later.